There's a strange kind of heartbreak that nobody talks about. Not the heartbreak of losing someone, not the heartbreak of failure, but the heartbreak of waking up every day feeling like your life belongs to something else. An alarm clock, a company, a landlord, a system, a routine so repetitive that eventually your soul stops asking questions. You wake up, you work, you recover, and then you repeat it until the weeks blur together like watercolors left in the rain. And somewhere deep inside yourself, you quietly wonder, is this really all life is supposed to be? Most people respond to that feeling the same way. They think, I just need a better job, better salary, better benefits, better co-workers, better office. And listen, sometimes a better job does help, but a better cage with softer pillows is still a cage if your survival depends entirely on it. That's the conversation nobody wants to have. My name is Grandpa T, and today I want to share something that took many people decades to understand. The goal in life is not merely to chase a better job. The goal is to create options. Because if you spend your entire life needing one thing to work perfectly in order for your life to stay stable, you are fragile. And fragile people live in fear. Fear of losing income, fear of disappointing people, fear of starting over, fear of saying no, fear of walking away. Fear becomes their landlord, and eventually they stop living freely. They start negotiating with their own misery. You know what's fascinating about human beings? Most people can survive painful situations for years, as long as they believe they have no alternative. That's why people stay in jobs they resent. That's why people stay in relationships that slowly destroy them. That's why people stay in environments that drain their spirit. Not always because they want to, but because they cannot afford movement. And movement is one of the greatest luxuries in life. Imagine two birds trapped in a storm. One bird has strong wings. The other bird depends entirely on a single branch. Now tell me, which one panics when the wind starts shaking the tree? The bird with no options. That's how many people live today. One paycheck away from collapse. One unexpected emergency away from chaos. One toxic boss away from emotional exhaustion. And the saddest part, many people think this is normal. No, common does not mean healthy. A person should not feel imprisoned by survival. The truth is, you can keep changing jobs forever. But if you never build leverage outside of those jobs, you'll remain trapped in the same emotional cycle wearing different uniforms. New company, same dependence, new salary, same fear, new environment, same exhaustion. It's like changing seats on a sinking ship while convincing yourself you've changed destinations. See, the real power of a job is not just the paycheck. The real power of a job is what it allows you to build beyond it. It's the shift you need. One person uses a job merely to survive the month. Another person uses the same job to slowly buy freedom, to buy time, to buy education, to buy skills, to buy breathing room. And over time, those two people end up living completely different lives. A job should not only feed your current self, it should help build your future self, because your future self is depending on the decisions you make right now. Every skill you ignore today becomes a limitation tomorrow. Every dollar you waste trying to impress people becomes an opportunity you can no longer afford later. Every year you spend avoiding growth quietly builds a prison around your future. And most people don't realize it until they feel trapped. You know something painful? A lot of people don't actually hate work. They hate powerlessness. They hate feeling stuck. There's a difference. A person can work hard and still feel fulfilled if they know they have choices. But when someone feels cornered, even small problems start feeling unbearable. That's why options matter so deeply. Options restore dignity. Options restore hope. Options restore psychological peace. Let me say something that may stay with you for a long time. Sometimes the greatest luxury in life is simply knowing you can leave. Leave the apartment that makes you miserable. Leave the workplace that slowly destroys your confidence. Leave the environment where your spirit cannot breathe. Leave the version of yourself you outgrew years ago. People underestimate how good it feels to know you are not trapped here. That sentence alone can change someone's entire mental health. And here's the irony. The people with the most freedom are often not the people making the most money. They are the people who built flexibility. A person earning a modest income with savings, skills, discipline, and peace of mind may actually be freer than someone earning millions while drowning in debt and obligation. Because freedom is not measured only by income. Freedom is measured by dependency. Who owns your time? Who controls your decisions? Who controls your emotional state? What are you unable to walk away from? Those questions reveal more about your freedom than your paycheck ever will. You know why the ocean is powerful. Because it moves, it adapts, it reshapes itself around obstacles. But people often cling to certainty even when certainty is killing them. They stay where they're unhappy because familiarity feels safer than possibility. But growth has always required movement. A seed cannot become a tree while remaining buried forever. At some point, it must break open. And yes, breaking open is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is often the beginning of freedom. There are people watching this right now who secretly know they are living beneath their potential, not because they are lazy, not because they lack intelligence, but because survival consumed all their energy. And I understand that deeply. When a person is constantly stressed, exhausted, and financially cornered, dreaming starts to feel irresponsible, exploration starts to feel dangerous, creativity starts to feel like a luxury. That's why creating options matters so much, because options create room for possibility, and possibility is where life begins to feel alive again. There's this idea that I really like, self-actualization. People love using this word, but let's simplify it. Self-actualization means becoming who you truly are, not who fear shaped you into, not who society pressured you to become, not who survival forced you to imitate. The real you, the honest you, the version of yourself that emerges when fear no longer dominates every decision. But how can someone discover themselves if they never have enough room to think? How can someone pursue purpose when every waking moment is spent trying to survive? That's why options are not just financial tools. They are spiritual tools. They give your soul space to breathe. When you have options, you begin making decisions from alignment instead of desperation. You listen to what genuinely resonates with you. You explore ideas that inspire you. You pursue opportunities that feel meaningful. You stop constantly second-guessing your instincts, because deep down, you know you are not standing on the edge of collapse anymore, and that confidence changes a human being. But let me warn you about something dangerous. Modern culture confuses appearance with freedom. People buy expensive things to feel successful while becoming more trapped every year. A luxury car with crushing payments, a massive apartment that chains them to exhausting work, a lifestyle so fragile that one setback could destroy everything, and society applauds it. Meanwhile, the person quietly building savings, learning skills, and protecting flexibility looks behind temporarily, but may actually be building a life far more sustainable and free. That's why freedom often looks unimpressive in the beginning, because freedom grows quietly. And if this conversation is resonating with you, subscribe to the channel, because here we talk about the deeper side of life, not just success, but freedom, not just productivity, but meaning, not just surviving, but becoming. And if this message touches something real inside you, leave a comment below and tell me, what's one option you want to create for yourself this year? Maybe it's starting a side income. Maybe it's building savings. Maybe it's learning a skill that finally gives you leverage. Maybe it's simply believing your life can become bigger than your current environment. And if this video is helping you reflect, leave a like so this message can reach someone else who feels trapped right now. Sometimes one perspective can change the direction of a person's entire life. You know what truly changes a person? Not motivation, not hype, perspective. The moment someone realizes my current situation does not have to become my permanent identity, everything changes after that, because hope enters the room again. A person with options walks differently through life. They negotiate differently. They think differently. They love differently. Why? Because fear no longer controls every decision, and fear is exhausting. Fear makes people betray themselves. Fear makes people tolerate disrespect. Fear makes people stay silent when they should speak. Fear makes people abandon dreams before those dreams even have a chance to breathe. But options weaken fear. And a fearless mind is capable of extraordinary transformation. Life is movement. Everything moves. Water moves. Clouds move. Birds migrate. Seasons change. And yet so many people stay emotionally frozen because they built lives with no flexibility. That's why you must create options deliberately. Learn beyond your job description. Protect your health. Read. Save. Network. Build discipline quietly. Develop your ability to adapt, because every skill you develop becomes another door that can open later. And you never know which door may someday save your life. Some people think building options means you're disloyal. No. It means you respect yourself enough to prepare for uncertainty. The world changes too quickly to depend entirely on one thing forever. Industries collapse. Companies replace workers. Economies shift over time. But adaptable people survive. Not because life becomes easy, but because they are no longer emotionally cornered by change. And perhaps the greatest thing options give you is the ability to choose peace. Not temporary comfort, lifelong peace. The kind of peace that lets you sleep without constant dread. The kind of peace that allows your mind to dream again. The kind of peace that reminds you life is more than just paying bills until death arrives. Because, my friend, life was never meant to be only endured. It was meant to be experienced, felt, explored, lived deeply. At the end of life, I don't think people regret not upgrading their job title quickly enough. I think they regret all the moments fear stole from them, the places they never went, the risks they never took, the passions they abandoned, the version of themselves they never allowed to exist. And many times, the difference between a trapped life and a meaningful life is simply having options. So no, you don't just need a better job. You need leverage. You need flexibility. You need breathing room. You need choices powerful enough to protect your peace and expand your future. Because when you create options for yourself, you create one of the most powerful forms of freedom a human being can experience. The ability to remove yourself from what destroys your spirit and move toward what brings your soul to feel alive. And if that is not one of the greatest forms of wealth in existence, I truly don't know what is. This is Grandpa T. And remember, a bird sitting on a branch is never afraid of the branch breaking, because its confidence was never in the branch. It was always in its wings.